Hello again, and welcome to Parson's Progress. You saw a lot of progress yesterday where I just completely exposed the quarry tiles in this room. I'm back in the room. It was raining today and I thought I can't be bothered to do anything, but it's cheered up a bit, the weather, and that's cheered me up. So I thought, well, there was a big fat, ghastly cold storage heater. Probably one of the early ones, massive, it's like the size of a bookcase, as deep as a bookcase, and as big as a bookcase. I'm hoping it hasn't got asbestos in it. I'll show you it. So anyway, today's job has been this. I've been banging away with that against this, playing whack-a-mole. It's too heavy for me to carry, it's full of bricks. I'll show you if I can. Underneath this, I hope to God it's not asbestos. Oh, and there's loads of bricks. If you don't hear from me again, you'll know why. But what I do think is actually asbestos, if you come to the ingle nook, is the register plate. I'm almost 100% that is asbestos, and I am not going to go anywhere near it. But that's coming down soon, but not by me. So there we are. What a day. Manual labour, you see. There's a mattock there, shovel there, and a sledgehammer there. But I will get the job done. It was Churchill who said, give me the tools and I'll get the job done. Well, I'm going to get the job done, one way or the other. But small steps. Anyway, that's me for today. And I think I'll go and have a quick drink and then crack on with this radiator, cold storage heater. Well, I think I've done all I can do on the sitting room. I'm sweating like a pervert in a sweet shop. Oh, I don't know if the camera's picking it all up. I'm lathered, as they used to say in the north. I'm lathered. Anyway, I'll show you what I've done today. I think this room is now more or less cleaned up in its entirety. One moment. So as you know, I started unearthing the quarry tiles from beneath their 75 years of detritus. That is not flagstones, that's just a little skimming of cement. Chips up really easy to reveal more flagstones. It literally comes up crumbling. I just couldn't be bothered to do it today because I had another more important job. I've had a sweep down of all the windowsills that were just covered in, I don't know, bat droppings and glass and you name it. Anyway, so I had to go at those. But my biggest achievement was yesterday. You will have seen a monstrosity there. The monstrosity is gone. It has departed. And so the room is looking fine. All these old attachments, look. That's where the cold storage heater was attached. And now everything is removed to reveal its glory. And something that might come in useful is what was in the cold storage heaters. Is that what they're called? Cold storage heaters? I don't know. Briquettes. Now the bricks may be deployed as a temporary fire back in there. I'll have to Google if they're suitable. But I suspect those are a particular sort of fire brick. So they may be useful. So that was today. Don't let anybody tell you that running away into the countryside is, you're just going to be throwing a little bit of cereal down for a few little chickens and collecting little eggs as you wave to your husband on the veranda as he smokes his pipe and reads his newspaper. It's backbreaking. Prodigious amounts of work are involved. And I'm going to leave it there. I think that's enough work for anybody for one day. That was backbreaking, disassembling that huge thing and getting it out of here. Anyway, I'll speak to you shortly, probably in the caravan. After that bit of endeavour, I think I require a shower. Would you like to look at my arrangement? Well, you won't see all of my arrangement. That would be improper. But what I do is I take this kettle, and you're watching closely, playmates, get a bit of water into that. There's the pump to my shower, which is there. You can see I've got a nice solar light there, so I can even have a midnight shower if I fancy. Anyway, that's part one of the process. Now the second part of the process is equally as simple. You just take your kettle, and in your hot water goes into your dirty old bucket. And all that remains now for me to do is to jump in the shower. Well, playmate, you now catch me at my leisure. I don't know what time it is, and it's nearly 4 o'clock. Now, normally I would say that is wine o'clock, but today it's not. Today it is 4 o'clock, and it is cider o'clock. Yes, you heard that right, viewers. I don't drink cider, but I've run out of IPA. And in the back of my little drinks cabinet outside, which keeps everything, it doesn't matter what the weather's doing, this is really cold, keeps everything chilly. I normally have IPA, and I've got my non-alcoholic beers out there, and I thought, well, I do fancy a drink. And then I saw this. I bought this because you always get guests that will drink cider that don't like beer or whatever, you know, so I just kept it in. It's never been opened. I mean, you could call it vintage. I'm going to hug it. I'm going to hug my bottle of cider. It's quite nice, isn't it? I like that bottle could be possibly repurposed. But I've earned this, viewers. You've no idea how much physical labour I've been engaged in lately. You know, I'm no spring chicken. Ah, dear. So I'm going to pour this, and I'm going to enjoy it, I hope. Do you get a head on cider? I don't know. I'm not a cider drinker. Some people love cider, you know. It's all they drink. Well, we'll see how we get on with it. I'm sure it'll be very refreshing. That's the main thing. I've just had my shower. You'll have seen that I had a shave, and I needed it. I looked at the video yesterday. I look like a homeless man. No offence to any of you homeless men out there. With your big beards. Where you have all of last week's menu on display, and a couple of cuckoos nesting in there. But quite a good look. I'm not really capable of growing a really fierce patriarchal beard, so I've sort of given up, really. I can grow a beard of sorts. When I used to just tastes like cider. Oh, it's okay. Yeah, I tried to grow a patriarchal one, and I couldn't, really. You know, you've got to have a lot of testosterone, haven't you? I don't think I've got enough, frankly. But, you know, those really good beards, so they grow effortlessly and thick and lustrous. I sometimes have sported, as you've seen in the past, a beard of sorts. I could just about get away with a sort of a beard. And I'm kind of... I think it's because I used to like mountaineering a lot, and I just was trying to recreate the sort of Chris Bonington look, and failing miserably. I always thought mountaineers should have a good beard, you see. Anyway, there's no real requirement for me here to have a beard, and so I have desisted. Hence the clean-shaven look. Now I'm going to fire up a pipe. Just an update. What shall I fire it up in? Let's have a look. I'll fire it. I don't use this very often. This is my Peterson. It's rather nice silver spigot pipe. I'm going to fire it up in this. What was I on about? Oh yes, yesterday I was talking about that Peterson special cut, and I suppose I was a bit disingenuous, really, on the whole. about it. But frankly, I puffed on it all last evening, and I've only had one smoke today, and that was it. I had that in the morning with a coffee, and I'm going to slightly revise my opinion. I still don't think it's got any wow factor, but it has got a smokability factor. In other words, I can see that as being someone's everyday smoke. It's an all-day smoke, I think, and it's an easy smoke. Doesn't, knock your socks off, but on the other hand, doesn't really disappoint. Not too strong, so you feel you can have a bowl of it whenever you please. So, I'm still quite glad of the recommendation. I'm not going to be putting it in my bowl today, in my Peterson spigot pipe. I am going to have the one I cannot resist. That's Perfection. Samuel Gower's Perfection. I'm all clean. It's lovely, isn't it? When you I've been so... I hope it wasn't asbestos in there. I don't think it was. I think that lagging is some sort of fiberglass padding. I have no idea. But I wore a mask. And I've taken all those clothes off and put them in an unceremonious dump on the veranda to be washed. And as you can see, I've shaved, I've had a shower, I'm in clean clothes. I would have got into my pyjamas, believe it or not, even this early. But then I remembered I've got a Tesco's delivering and I have to walk up the ruddy mountain later on at 9 o'clock at night. Could be later. They said they're going to deliver between 9 and 10. Pitch bloody black, halfway up a mountain. They always do that. Anyway, hence I thought I'd get into clothes. I have gone up there in my pyjamas before. It's alright when it's a male, but sometimes you can give the girls a fright. Right, let's get this thing filled up. I'm about had enough of today. That's me, what's that? It's in this one, I'm sure it is. No, it's not. Perfections, how can I ever forget? This was on the Land Rover bumper, wasn't it? Even after that journey, never fell off. So anyway, I hope you liked seeing the living room, or sitting room, as some people have it. It's now bare. Hasn't got anything in it. A few old logs in the corner. A little bit of broken glass that I picked up from the windowsills, and I've put that in that corner on a shelf as well. Need to dispose of that sensibly. Other than that room has been gutted. It's fantastic. I went into it yesterday evening, and it was actually more scary at night going in there, as it is, than it was before when it was just piles of rubbish everywhere. I don't know why, because it looked like a living room. It looked like somebody could have been sat in there. It looked like the ghosts of the past had come back. It was quite... But then I thought they'll probably like me anyway and get on with me. Why shouldn't they? I'm a nice chap. I'm not worth haunting. There's other people much worth haunting than I am. I can think of one straight away. Won't mention his name. Too much rancour, you see, in the world. And it's about that, really. I thought I might address you on tonight. I saw, when I got up, I don't see many things when I first get up. Not because I'm bleary-eyed or hungover. It's because I spend an inordinate amount of time meditating, praying, and then I do my morning routine, my chores. So it's usually quite a while before I sit down and see what the world's been up to. And even then I don't look for it. It's usually somebody informing me it, as was the case this morning. When I was informed by a friend that the Pope had died, may he rest in peace. And I was also informed, although I've not seen it, that some disreputable video has gone around showing his worst moments. And of course he was quite an unpopular Pope in some circles, the generally quite religious traditionalist circles, because he cracked down on the Latin Mass, cracked down on a number of things, and he also tried and trusted and centuries-old believed doctrines he sort of ran in the face of, and various other things. Now, of course, some people applauded that. So he had his detractors, and he had his supporters. And I mean, it got to the point, you know, where people used to say, didn't they, when you were having a bit of bants in the pub, you say, is the Pope a Catholic? Well, actually, in this case, people were legitimately asking, is the Pope a Catholic? Because he was so radical. So, I thought that was in particularly bad taste. I have nothing to say on the subject of his death other than its inevitability. I leave that sort of thing to God. I wish others would. Everyone's got a voice, haven't they? Opinion on everything. And I mean, that's fine up to a point, but one of the things I find spiritually unproductive is rancour. It's a good word, that, isn't it? Rancour. And you see it in every religion. I mean, you expect it in some almost. I mean, in Islam, they're always fighting with each other, aren't they? The Shiites and the Sunni. And then you have, even within the Sunni side of Islam, you have the four madhabs, which are the schools of jurisprudence, the Hanbali, the Maliki, and various others. And they all fall out over every interpretation of the Quran and what they call the Hadith, which is the kind of traditions about what Muhammad is supposed to have done and said in his life. So they squabble about that and about what he actually meant. And I find it concerning, not because it bothers me in the sense that it's going to make any difference to my life, the four schools of Islamic jurisprudence all falling out with each other doesn't bother me at all, but nearer to home, of course, within the church, particularly the Catholic Church, I don't like to see falling out particularly. It'd be nice to sing all literally off the same song sheet, wouldn't it? Oh dear. But we don't. And I can even accept that people hold different views on spirituality and religion, with a degree of, let's say, mutual respect, even though you can agree to differ. But what I don't like, as I say, I come back to this word, rancour. Don't like rancour. And what I see within the church a lot of the time, particularly since now we've got the internet, and everybody's got a mouth and everyone's going to use it. You see even more rancour. And everybody airs their rancour. Everybody falling out with each other because you have a difference of opinion. In my last village, there was a lady, and I won't tell you which way I voted, but in the last, whatever it was, and anyway, she never spoke to me since, when she discovered who I'd voted for, or which party I'd voted for. That was an interesting case, wasn't it? That's not even religion. But to actually get to the point where you will never speak to... She said to me, I don't think I can be friends with you anymore. purely over having a political difference. I mean, she was a Guardian-reading wokenista, but that's neither here nor there. I was always happy to say hello to her and chat to her and pass the... I didn't sort of say to her, no, I can't talk to you, you're just far too woke. No, don't try and talk me round. You're far too woke. I cannot talk to anybody who reads The Guardian. It used to be called the Manchester Guardian in its early days. Now it's just The Guardian. And the same is for religion. You know, all this falling out, all this rancour, all this burnings at the stake. We don't do that anymore, do we? Never seen the point of it, because if you think about it, you have to ask yourself fundamental questions, don't you? About religion and spirituality. You know, what is the most fertile soil on which to grow your spirit, to grow your heart, to journey into the heart of God, to bring forth the fruits of the Spirit, like joy and peace and love? What is the most fertile soil? I'm sure that the most fertile soil is not just living in a constant wall of noise and rancour. No. I don't think that's a fertile soil for Satan, and for falling out, and for lack of love, and lack of forgiveness, but it's certainly not a soil for holiness. Now, I've entitled my, is it called a thumbnail? Spiritual or religious? Because as a priest, I'm retired really, although priests never retire, do they? I used to hear that a lot, you know. I'm not religious, Father, but I am spiritual. And a lot of people used to look down on people who said that. They said, oh, well, that's just a cop-out. That means they just are LARPing about as Wiccans or something, all hippie, drug-taking, yoga, twitching weirdos. You know, they're being spiritual, you know, because they sit cross-legged for 5 minutes in the morning and light a joss stick. Sounds like me, doesn't it? Although it's a lot longer than 5 minutes. Whereas being religious, rather than spiritual, and you belong to some sort of established religion, like Islam, like Judaism, like the Christian Church. That's not you being spiritual, that's you being religious. Used to be a lovely old expression in England in the old days. I think I'm probably looking quite dark. I can't quite see myself in there, but if I am, it's probably an improvement. Used to be a lovely old expression. You know your Uncle Jim? He was a big Methodist. Oh, do you remember your Auntie Sybil down in Wales? She were a big Baptist, she was. Funny that, big Methodist, big Baptist. Yeah, religious, belong to a proper church. And they go to it, and they believe it. Not quite the same as being spiritual, though, is it? And I've been thinking about it this morning and praying about it and contemplating it. This, it's not necessarily a dichotomy, is it? This difference between being spiritual and being religious. And I came to the conclusion that you can be spiritual, you can be religious. Sorry about that. Battery went again. Oh, just when I was mid-flow about the religious and the spiritual. So I'm going to have to recap, I'm afraid, chaps. Yes, so you can be religious, you can be spiritual. I topped my cider up while I was waiting for the battery to charge up a bit. You can be religious, you can be spiritual, you can be religious and spiritual. You can be spiritual and religious, or you could just be spiritual and not religious, or religious and not spiritual. Those are your options, guys. Or you can be neither. Some of my viewers might say, well, I'm neither spiritual nor religious. So there. I don't really care. That's up to you. It's your soul. You might not believe in a soul. But ultimately, every tub sits on its own bottom, and I sit on mine, and you sit on yours. So those are your options, guys. Now, the problem, of course, comes is when you have religious people who are not spiritual. They're the ones that tend to make the most noise. And the reason I'm telling you all of this is because of the importance of contemplation and meditation and spirituality, dare I say even mysticism. And because there is a rich vein of mysticism, certainly within the Christian tradition, and almost entirely in the Zen Buddhist tradition. You find it within Sufism in Islam, although how they reconcile that with a warmongering prophet who has sex with 9-year-olds, I'm not entirely sure, but there we go. Aisha was 9, by the way. I think they married when she was 6, and they had sex when she was 9. So I'm not going to give any pejorative judgments on it. I'll let you, the viewer, make your own mind up on that. But going back to mystical traditions, those who meditate find that they become transformed, transfigured after a fashion, and after a very short while. If you're a religious person and you have no time for contemplation or meditation, your whole religious expression is just one of turning up to things and talking a lot, I think that has an effect, whoever you are. So, for example, if you're the sort of person who is prepared to be quiet for half an hour, or an hour, or less than an hour, or less than half an hour, your life will change. Even though you're not praying any particular prayers, you're just literally sitting with God. Somebody once asked somebody, a hermit once, what he does when he's doing all this meditation and this, that and the other. And he says, well, I'm just in the presence of God. He said, well, okay, I get that. He said, well, I just sit there looking at him and he just sits there looking at me. And it's a little bit like that, I think. But those who are used to that type of prayer life, or who incorporate that into their prayer life, you'll find they begin to despise rancor. Going back to rancor, they despise that wall of noise, that wall of rancor, all of that hatred, all of that lack of forgiveness, all that judgmentalism. It feels very distant from their essence, from their soul, from their spirit. And also, the other thing is, when you sit in meditation, it affects the seat of the will. The will is what tells us what we're going to do. We have a thought, but we need the will to see that thought through. Like me deciding to do all that work today. It's one thing thinking about it, isn't it? In the morning. But it's another thing getting off your arse and doing it. That's where your will comes in. But as someone who does meditate, I find that it does affect one's will. In other words, you decide to do the things that are right in life. By people, by yourself. And it's not imposed from without. I think that's the point I'm trying to make. It's imposed from within. So when you have a moral choice to make, and you're a contemplative individual, and a meditative individual who prays and meditates, the thought of stealing from somebody, or running off with somebody's wife, punching somebody on the nose, various things. You think of the sort of sins that you may have accrued in your life, and what you've been guilty of, or may still be guilty of. It all is occasioned in the mind first and then the will. But can you imagine if everybody meditated? Half an hour, less than an hour, less than half an hour. How that would alter them as a person. I mean, think about people you really don't like, or people who make the most noise. Do you really consider that they are meditators? I mean, think of Adolf Hitler. Irrespective of what you think about him, or his regime, do you think he spent an hour just sitting serenely, cross-legged, in his Alpine eyrie, where he used to go off with his various Gestapo bosses and Herr Himmler and that lot? Do you think they all sat there, cross-legged, just looking out over the mountains, meditating serenely for an hour together? I doubt it very much. And you'll notice with most wicked people, they're not people for contemplation and self-awareness, or sitting quiet, or being just with themselves. And I think there's lessons to be learned here. And when you think about the most spiritual people you encounter, you might think of hermits, you might think of monks, you might think of Zen masters, some of you might think of gurus in India or somewhere. These are people who you can imagine sitting there for an hour or so, meditating, contemplating, just being quiet. Pipe smokers do it, you know. They're natural born meditators, you know. Even when I don't meditate formally, spiritually, I still sit out on that veranda puffing on my pipe, often in evening, sometimes in pitch black, just looking at the stars and the twinkling lights. In the mountains, cars going past, maybe a buried cottage or farmhouse on the horizon. I'm just smoking my pipe. I'm not practicing zazen, I'm not practicing contemplation, I'm not practicing meditation particularly. But you're sitting there quietly, aren't you, with your own thoughts. That's the start. That's a good intro to the life of prayer. A very good intro. I'm not suggesting you all take up the pipe, I'm sure you won't. But it's a shout out to all you good fellows out there, you pipers who are listening to me, and pipesses. Because I know some young ladies like to smoke a pipe. And so that's really all I have to say today. Just thinking about what it means to be religious, what it means to be spiritual. I think, if you're singularly incapable of sitting down as a religious person, if you are a religious person listening to this, and if you ask yourself the question, when did I actually just sit down for 15 minutes in quiet contemplation before your Lord? And if your answer is, well, I can't remember the last time I did that, then I would seriously question your religious credentials. You may be religious, but where are you on your journey into the heart of God? Is it all on the surface? Is it all flotsam and jetsam? Is it all just belonging to the tribe? People love to belong to a tribe. Say the things that the tribe says, do the things that the tribe tells you to do. I'm religious. I'm good. I'm home. I'm at home base. You might be at home base in the tribe, but whether you're home base spiritually or as far as God is concerned, it's entirely another matter. And so that's about all I want to say on that subject. Shout out to all my lovely new Land Rover. I didn't expect to get Land Rover people on board, and they're full of great advice. I'm getting lots of comments from the Land Rover brigade, all about the engine, and is it a 2A, and is it a 3 Series, and has it got this gearbox and that gearbox, and it's fabulous, and nice to see you all. I'm learning from the comments, so keep them coming. One thing I'd like to know about is, obviously, one checks one's oil and, tyre pressures and other things. Are there some really key checks that you must do on a very old Land Rover in order not to sort of come unstuck on one of your trips? So if you do know, let me know. I'm prepared to learn everything I can. I'm certainly no mechanic, although I want to learn as much as mechanicking as I can on my own vehicle, but I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on that score, but I'm certainly prepared to learn. So welcome to all you guys. I was going to do a chapter on my book today, but I think I've run over my time. It was raining earlier, and I thought, well, I'm going to get nothing to show you, so I might as well just read a chapter of my book. But as you can see, I have slaved in our Lord's vineyard and in my cottage today. And so I'm feeling rather pleased with myself again, and I'm feeling inordinately clean, having shaved and showered. I look forward to my Tesco delivery, because again, I've still got nothing in the pantry. I had soup last night in the end, although I enjoyed it, oddly. A couple of bits of sourdough to go with it was enough. Followed by a very nice, I was given an Easter egg. Somebody sent me an Easter egg, and I didn't know it was up there, because I wasn't expecting any deliveries from Amazon. And somebody says, I think you better go back up the track and have a look. And I was able to consume some chocolate last night, which I don't do routinely, but it was most appreciated from a very loving individual. So with that, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to finish my perfection. I wish I could be as perfect as Samuel Gowerth's perfection in my own life. But it is the area of the will. That's where decisions are made. And if you're a meditative, contemplative sort of person, you will find that your will, the seat of your will within you, will slowly begin to be transformed and transfigured. And instead of rules being imposed on you from without, you must do this, you must do the other, you do this or that, or you will go to hell. Instead of that, which I think is absolute nonsense, so sorry any people who believe in that type of form of spirituality, I think it's bunkum. What you do is you transform yourself, you transform your inner being to the point where you don't need to be told what's right or wrong. And genuinely good people don't need to be told. They know what's right and wrong, because it's in the seat of their will. It's in the heart of their soul. And that is what needs to be worked on. That's what needs to be converted. Not this just, I belong to this clan, I belong to that clan, I'm all right, Jack, hallelujah, I'm on the way to heaven. I wouldn't be so sure about that. Our Lord had a lot to say about people who had that attitude. He said prostitutes and innkeepers will be far ahead of you in the queue to get into the kingdom of heaven, which was quite a radical thing to say to religious people. And he's also on the day of judgment, he was saying there'll be people coming up to him, this is our Lord, saying, Lord, Lord, didn't we do this in your name, and we did that in your name, and we did the other in your name, we're so religious. And he said, depart from me, you evildoers, I don't know you. So just be careful. So whether you're spiritual, whether you're religious and spiritual, or whether you're just a nice old Land Rover lover, I'm going to leave you tonight, and I hope you're well wherever you are. I hope you've taken something from what I've had to say and enjoyed my little bit of work today on the cottage. See you tomorrow night, God willing.